Welcome to the Royal National Park, also known as the Nasho, or the Royal as Aussies tend to call it. People typically refer to this abundant preserve as Sydney's backyard. Does anyone want to guess how close we currently are to the National Park? Correct. From our classroom, we're only 30 kilometers away. Transportation-wise, the Royal is only a 1-hour train or drive from Central Station, making it super accessible for most people in Sydney. However, the Royal's proximity to the city is not the only reason it holds such a special place in many Aussies' hearts. The establishment of the Royal marked the beginning of Australian conservation efforts. The rich abundance and diversity that is preserved in the Royal is sacred to many people in Sydney who enjoy escaping the traffic and noise of the city, and that is a major reason why conservation efforts are so well supported surrounding the Royal.
But let's back up a second and better understand how the Royal came to be in the first place. Does anyone have a guess when the Royal became a national park? The correct answer is 1879. So, in 1879, Sir John Robertson, the former Premier of New South Wales, simply proclaimed it a national park. In addition to being Australia's first national park, the Nasho is also the second oldest national park in the world, just behind Yellowstone in the US. At the time of its founding, it was originally just named National Park. In 1954, however, the park was renamed following Queen Elizabeth's trip to Australia. Funny enough, she never actually visited the park. The closest she came was quickly passing through it on train during her visit. I guess the name briefly Royal National Park didn't sound so good though, so they changed the name to Royal National Park instead.
Okay, enough about the history. Let's talk about what's actually in the Royal National Park. The park is rich and diverse in geography and ecology. Can you guess how many plant species there are in the Royal National Park? Good job! In fact, there are over 1,000 plant species in the Royal. Now, can you guess how many animal species there are? You got it! The Royal has nearly 350 animal species. With such an impressive array of plants and animals, there is certainly no way you'll see them all in one trip to the park. Some of the common plant species seen are the golden wattle, which is Australia's national flower, the bright pink heaths, a gorgeous orange-colored banksia, and the well-known eucalyptus tree. Some of the common animal species you might spot are the wallaby, a possum, a sulfur-crested cockatoo, crimson rosellas, rainbow lorikeets, and sugar gliders. Let's talk more about the sugar glider for a second. As non-native Australians, we find them really fascinating.
Depending on how high they are, they can glide for distances of over 40 meters. Though these longer glides are rather uncommon, and they will typically only glide for distances of about 6 meters. They will drop about 1 meter for every 1.8 meters that they move forward. Sugar gliders are much more maneuverable than their larger cousins, and are capable of shifting direction mid-air to avoid an obstacle or to dodge a predator. Gliding gives them two advantages. They can avoid all the predators on the ground, and gliding is much more energy efficient than climbing, so they save a lot of energy as well. When pregnant, females will develop a partial septum inside their pouch, which acts like a little airbag for their joeys, protecting them from the full force of impact when landing.
I don't know about you, but those all sound way cooler than the pigeons where I'm from in New York. Although I think most people find animals to be a most exciting feature of the outdoors, you will be impressed with the geography that the Royal National Park has to offer as well. From sandstone cliff tops to natural swimming pools, the Royal National Park truly has so much natural beauty to offer. You may also see gorgeous beaches, wade through freshwater rivers and swamps, and spot some sand dunes along your way. During our field trip this week, we'll see the Guatemala Beach and Wedding Cake Rock. Like most things in nature, Wedding Cake Rock is beautiful and breathtaking, but can be quite dangerous if you step too close. This one spot in the park is heavily fenced to prevent people from stepping too close to the edge and falling off. Unfortunately, this has happened in the past.
The erosion of sandstone cliffs are just one of a range of challenges currently facing the park. We would like to focus in for a minute on some of the other ecological and sociological challenges at play. For instance, as you probably know, it's common in large areas of wildlife for certain species to become endangered due to the introduction of invasive species. Can you guess what one example of an invasive species is within the Royal? It's deer. Deer are considered an invasive species because they were introduced in 1906 and are not native to the area. They eat loads of vegetation and have caused many plant species to be placed on the endangered list within the Royal. One control method has been to remove deer from the area, attempt to keep them out, and monitor their population growth. More broadly, however, world-leading ecologists, with help from the New South Wales government, have created the Scorecard Project, which aims to measure biodiversity within the park in order to maintain data on the rise and decline of many different species.
However, animals are not the only problem. Can you guess what else might pose a threat to the ecosystem within the Royal? It's the people. There has been a steady increase in the number of people visiting the park each year. In 2008, an estimated total of 3.8 million people visited the park, but that number rose to over 60 million in 2018. The more visitors, the more damage the park experiences. However, it's hard to try and balance or limit visitation to a natural site that was set up for people to enjoy and experience. In an attempt to address this issue, the Royal got creative and released a new park management plan in December 2022. The plan established 3 types of zones in the park, each with different levels of accessibility to the public. Some allow passive viewing, like walking paths and lookouts, while other zones allow more active interaction with nature, like swimming holes, campsites, and beaches. Now that we have discussed the history of the park, what really makes up the park and some issues within the park, it is time to discuss what the current topics of conversation are about the Royal in the media and in research. Recently, the Royal has made headlines because people are trying to nominate it to be considered as a World Heritage Site. A World Heritage Site is a natural or man-made site that is recognized for its international importance and thus generally receives special protection.
Additionally, academic research plays a big role in the Royal National Park. Many studies have examined how people, animals, or the surrounding environment impact the ecology and geology of the park. One example is a previous study suggested that a road accident on a major highway that runs through the Royal National Park may have caused the demise of some platypus populations. Another study examined the ecological risks caused by urbanization near the Hacking River catchment along the northeast corner of the park. If we haven't convinced you already that the Royal is a very important and prominent part of many Australians' lives, then here's some final information. Large groups of people from varying Aboriginal cultures and language groups hold this park near and dear to their traditions. Different locations within the park hold spiritual significance where different native cultures would share stories passed down over many years, conduct spiritual or cultural ceremonies, and perform caring practices for the land. These strong connections to the land and all that it can provide remain prominent today. Clearly, the Royal National Park holds a place in conservation history, Aboriginal history, and plays a key role in maintaining biodiversity as Australia's first national park.
Before we conclude this session of the Royal National Park, we want to give you some sneak peeks of what will come during the field trips on Thursday and Friday. During the excursion, we will follow the coastal track, about 10 kilometers from Bundeena to Watamolla. On the way, we will pass the balconies, Wedding Cake Rock, Marley Head, Marley Beach, Watamolla Dam, Watamolla Falls, and Watamolla Beach. As you can see, there are some breathtaking views awaiting us. Are you excited yet?